Hello, everybody. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Posted a link to our agenda. I hope to get our work done on the Finder's Guide today. That's my dream, because I have to write a blog about it by Friday.
Does it need to be real?
Does the guide need to be real?
Yeah.
It's very close to real, and I was going to enlist Randall. He has a tool that he can convert a GDoc into Markdown pretty easily. So I was going to ask Randall to cram it up into a repo as a .01 draft, because we want to announce this at the conference next week. We'll give it just one more minute.
Hello, it's been a while.
Traveler.
How you doing?
Doing well.
Good. I'm not going to be here very long. I actually have an interview in 15 minutes, but I did want to pop in and say hello to everybody and say I have not died. I have not disappeared from the world. I've been in the middle of moving between apartments, and I did Black Hat and DEF CON, and so my life has just been chaos. And so I have every intention of returning, and I miss you all, but my life is still slightly in chaos, and so it may be another week before I see you all again for the full meeting.
Is your upcoming conference in Tokyo?
Yes, so I'm actually got 6 conferences that I'm speaking at. I've been accepted to SecT in Stockholm, Rochester Security Summit, No Hat in Bergamo, Italy, Code Blue in Japan. I think I've been accepted to GitHub Universe, but we'll see if that. I'm not quite sure about the email they sent me wasn't quite clear. And then the Global AppSec conference in San Francisco.
Well, while you're in Tokyo,
yes,
I demand that you ride the zip line down into Godzilla's mouth at the Godzilla Museum.
Okay, I will do that.
Yes.
I'm gonna get the Japan train card that lets you go all over the place. So cool. Yeah, where's the Godzilla Museum? Tokyo?
It's somewhere in Tokyo. I was going to speak at a conference there before the world ended, and I was all excited. I was just about ready to buy my tickets and whatnot, and then the world ended.
Yep. All right. Well, you can live vicariously through me when I report back.
Cool. All right, folks. It is 4 after the hour. Welcome to the September 7th edition of the Vulnerability Disclosures Working Group. It looks like we are all old acquaintances here, so no need for introductions today. Does anyone have any opens they wanted to add to the agenda before we jump into reviewing the CVD guide?
I'm a little late, so maybe we've already done this, but yay, welcome back, Jonathan.
I have an interview in 10 minutes, so I'm actually gone very shortly. But
yes, but it's lovely to see you here.
Oh, yay. I'm happy to see you too again, Vicki. Yes. Hopefully in 2 weeks out, I'll be fully here.
All right. Anyone have any opens they wanted to discuss? All right. If not, let us throw our attention at the CVD guide for finders. As I mentioned right at the top of the call, we're hoping to formally unveil like a .01 release with the open source Europe summit next week. So I would like to get this as done as we can for this draft. And then I need to write a quick blog about it so that it will go into a press release and ideally get some more folks looking at and hopefully using our guide. And then it'll be in a Git repo that we can manage through PRs from that point forward.
Who is anybody speaking about it at the Europe conference?
We did not, they're really tight on spots. So Marta and I are talking about best practices stuff. And if I get a hot minute, I will mention the CVD guide.
Okay. If there's a conference that's available to talk about this whole thing, like for the Linux Foundation upcoming in the next couple of months, I'm happy to be one of the people that, makes the trip out to wherever that is appropriate to do that, even though I've been gone for the past 4 or 5 weeks.
I know that the LF is having a user summit of some type in November. That might be a spot. I haven't seen a CFP for that, but yeah, we'll keep
It's
that
closed.
option open. Is it closed? Where's my?
What? When did you add that to your lineup of things you could do?
Oh,
That's
I have
new.
all kinds of stuff. I have all kinds of toys.
You've been in remote meetings too long, Crow.
I have it for my work podcast. So I like to bring it out every once in a while. All right, folks, let us take a peek at the CVD guide. First and foremost, I would like to look at page 3. We have a section on what are open source maintainers' motivations. And Vicky, you had mentioned that Kayla had some suggestions. Do you think this has been resolved or not? Can I close this out?
I don't know whether she's had the opportunity to look at it or whether it's changed since then. So I'm going to say, yes, close it. And if anyone has changes, we can fix it in a PR.
That's right. Looking forward to getting this in GitHub. All right. Going further down, Vicky had talked about how OSS developers work. How's that going?
Yeah, it hasn't gone. Totally forgot that this was a thing I was going to be doing. So
Is it done enough, or do we need to defer it to a future draft?
Defer to a future draft because it's not done at all. There's some bullet points that I didn't even add there.
All right. I'll make sure that that piece doesn't get copied up. Yeah, I haven't seen Jennifer in a very long time, and I don't see her on today. Let us take a look at what is coordinated vulnerability disclosure. Let's take a few minutes to look at that paragraph. Do we feel that that is complete enough to move on? So take a minute or two to read through that. Randall, we're on page 4 of the CVD guide, looking at the what is CVD section. So in general, give you another 30 seconds or so. How do we feel about this paragraph? Is this good enough to move on with? And we can adjust it later in post.
So it's what it is. It's not how it is done, right?
Yes.
Yet. Okay. Yeah. So it's good.
All right. So I got a couple head nods and thumbs. Vulnerability identifiers. Did anyone get the Madison? I was just going to talk to you.
One thing with the coordinated vulnerability disclosure. So we're talking about sharing this with people who could fix or remediate the vulnerability, I think it might also be worth adding the words respond to, because incident response teams aren't always necessarily the ones that can fix it, but are also like deeply invested. So I think that like pretty broadly will just cover all of those cases too very easily.
How does that adjustment look to you?
Perfect.
Oh, and I'll put and/or. Great if they could do all of it. All right. Well, while you have the talking stick, Madison, Vicky mentioned that you were going to work on the vulnerability identifier section.
Oh, I was. Obviously, I have not done that. Fair, well earned. Yeah, I was traveling last week unexpectedly and need to prioritize this. So I can do that.
So can we get that done by the end of this week, or do we want to defer that to the next draft? In 1 second, Randall. What do you think, Madison? Or anyone else would like to contribute? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I might be able to get something in by the end of the week, but I'm not sure if we would then have consensus, I guess, on what I'm saying by then.
Okay, so what I would do is I would suggest we don't copy this into the initial draft of the document, and we add it in as a supplemental PR in the coming weeks after we've had a chance to talk through it. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I guess once this is live, what is the process, I guess, for updating it? Or how does that work, I guess, with the existing guide too? Just
the Google Doc will be locked. There'll be no more edits to it. And we will only do edits or changes within the GitHub repo where it lands.
okay, so basically any changes we want to make now privately before making public changes, I guess.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. And I think that would be a perfectly reasonable public change to make.
Any dissension, any counter opinions?
I actually got a few of them from doing the glossary at the bottom.
You have a few of the identifiers?
Yeah, because I was supposed to also work on that and copy them over from CERT.
So if we potentially added them to the glossary, that might at least explain if we use any of these terms, and then we can adjust later.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you have another comment or statement, Randall?
That was what I had.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, let's go down to page 5. Did we get the opportunity to specifically talk about embargoes yet? I think that's going to be something we need to have in the document before we go public. I don't see Kayla or Crystal on. Use the power of Control F.
What's the subject heading of this page, of this section you're looking at, sir?
The section heading is page 5. The section heading is understanding how a project handles vulnerabilities. It's
Got it.
underneath
Thank you.
security policy.
Yep.
And we do not have a lot of explanatory language around embargoes. So can I get a volunteer to hash out a couple sentences for us before we go live? And again, we always flesh out more, but it's something that happens. A lot of open source projects aren't going to use the embargo, but the researcher might ask them to. So I think it's something we definitely need to talk about at some point.
You can put my name on it.
Okay.
Meanwhile, you can put a little tongue-in-cheek comment that says "need to know" section.
Yeah. Lost it. Yeah, I don't even think we mentioned need to know. That's something, another concept that's important. All right, so if we can get that something working, to at least a stub or a couple statements, that'd be useful. Did that not? Yeah, Francis has access. Okay. My Google's slow today. What are you going to do about that today, Francis?
You should try rebooting. It usually helps.
Excellent.
By the way, Grammarly really doesn't like that first sentence. It says it's very hard to read.
Oh, yeah?
You know, most of the time Grammarly can get stuffed. It's pretty prescriptivist, and yeah. I don't think we need to pass it through Grammarly before we can get it, remove it to GitHub. But afterwards, it can have some good recommendations. I should not be so harsh.
All right. Any further conversation before we move on to page 7, properly setting expectations? All right, this is the section where we modified it from having a personal disclosure policy into kind of more setting expectations. So is the team generally happier with how I've phrased that? Any further adjustments we want to make to that? So on page 7, right below properly setting expectations for the disclosure. It's at least not completely objectionable to Vicky. Oh, good ad early. I like that.
So in the disclosure options just below, I've added 3 paragraphs and Kyla made some suggestions. There's a bit of an overlap and duplicate information on like some of that, but generally speaking, I think, what do you folks think?
Vicky liked it. I like the addition of early. I don't mind being a little duplicative if it's reinforcing, hammering on points we want to make.
That's good.
I think my request around explaining how software is developed and how patches are made didn't get to that. I think that would be good additional context for a researcher to kind of understand if they have never been involved in a collaborative software project. I don't have time to get that done by Friday. Do we have any volunteers that want to take that on this week, or do we want to defer that to a future draft?
You propose to have like a subsection about this, like a note about.
Yeah, just kind of
software
talking
development
about in
lifecycle?
general how software is made, how it's how a patch goes from idea to dispersal.
Is there perhaps something we could just link to that pre-exists, like maybe something on opensource.com or FOSS-Life or one of those other openly licensed
Maybe.
things?
Maybe.
And I would love to go find that for you, but this week is a thing.
I can take it.
Thank you, Abhishek. Oh, it's checking permissions very hard. Google doesn't like me adding people today. All right, while I'm waiting for that to go through, let's take a look at Francis's suggestion under disclosure options. So take a minute or two to read the paragraph and his additions. That was actually Kayla that put that suggestion in. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned.
So are we okay with that addition? We were a little hesitant before. Randall likes it. Any other? Vicky likes it. All right. All right, let us dive into the table now. So the first suggestion is Kayla wants to remove coordinated. She says, suggest removing this as a disclosure option with added context that any of the disclosure types within the table are done in a coordinated fashion. So basically, that's
sorry, just before the table. Sorry for interrupting too. I've highlighted a sentence. Should it be there, or is it like a note, or maybe I'm misreading it? A small note about the disclosure text here. So is it part of the text?
I think this is about like the advisory or how you're going to be publishing the report.
Yeah,
are
so
we okay with
I
that?
put that in there. I put that in there because during the last few meetings, there was a few questions or a few folks surfaced the fact that we may want to mention explicitly the quality and like to spend some time on the report quality so that we avoid duplication of work on like the security advisory and the blog post and all that jazz. So this is essentially to put emphasis on that.
Gotcha.
Is the team okay with that? All right. So back to coordinated. We've talked about coordinated as the means with which we want disclosures to happen. So do we need to remove the explicit coordinated option? Vicky?
So to clarify, is this a recommendation by, I forget who we did it,
Kayla?
but recommendation by Kayla that we remove this completely because this is essentially what the entire document is talking about, or,
Yes.
okay.
That appears to be the theme of what her request is.
I would say, while I agree, perhaps changing the text to reinforce that there are all these other options. Here's coordinated. This is what we recommend. But I think keeping it in there amidst the other options is certainly a good idea to make sure that we're not, people can see where it falls in the spectrum. But I definitely understand what she means there. It's just maybe a text change rather than a removal.
Francis?
Agreed with Vicky here. I think we can put a little note that this is somewhat self-referential, but since we're not in the business of making this document super lean, and we just pointed out that we have duplicates and redundant information all over the place, I feel very comfortable having it here. Maybe a small note again that, yes, we're aware that this is about this document.
All right, so we will keep coordinated. If we look at the full entry, do we need to make changes there based off of Kayla's notes? Basically striking the TLP white and just say full is publicly announcing the full details, yada, yada, of the vulnerability. All right, so let's just double check that real quick, make sure that reads okay to everybody. Let's move down to page 9. Nathan had put a comment. I provided a suggestion on the language for CVE. So how do we like the second paragraph there? So give you a couple minutes to read through that. Vicky?
I like the language, but it would be helpful somewhere to, it kind of does a bit of a hand wavy on go to a CNA without really giving a lot of direction on, and here's how you find a CNA for this scope. And that might be something to open an issue to take care of in the next iteration once it moves to GitHub.
Okay, we definitely could expand. But aside from that, you're directionally okay with how that is stated?
Yeah, I think you've done good.
All right. Francis.
Hey, before moving on from the table, I just wanted to point out that we don't mention NDAs anywhere in that document. It's fine. I think all of us hate it, but generally speaking, it is indeed linked to the non-disclosure stuff. So is that okay if we add it as an example scenario for no disclosures?
Is it a no disclosure, or is it a constrained disclosure? Like you don't talk about it for a
Private.
period of time.
Do we need a row for that? No disclosure / private.
Yeah, I think that's fair. What does the group think? It's something that's going to happen, especially if you're dealing with like potentially a corporate maintainer of source code, or if you're working through a bug bounty provider.
Is this covered in limited?
Yeah, I was looking for that word exactly.
Good eye.
Thank you, Madison.
Sure. See, I read it.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote these things down at first, and I completely forgot they existed. So happy someone reread it.
We've been staring at this for a long time. That's okay. Yeah, so Francis is adding about a note about non-disclosure agreements under limited. I think that is very much appropriate. Thank you for highlighting that, Madison.
Do we have a section somewhere below too about NDAs that we could link that to?
It's not. Look, we are close to the end of the document here.
Yeah.
I thought there was
Yeah, we
an
don't
NDA
actually
stuff that Jonathan wanted in there.
To use the power of Control F. Oh, there's 14 mentioned. Oh, it's just in the middle of the word.
Yeah.
Silly.
So page 5.
Yes. If you scroll up to page 5, it's currently highlighted in pink for me. 2 paragraphs above additional sources for finding CVD channel.
Okay. Yeah, if there was a header, I was going to say we could link to it, but there doesn't seem to be one.
Through the power of Markdown, we may make this happen.
Yes.
You can. Power of Markdown compels you.
It'd be the hammer of Markdown. But yeah.
All right. Any
Oh
other?
man, I'm so buying my editor a hammer of Markdown.
Any more feedback under getting a CVE number? The second paragraph we have highlighted where Nathan had comment. Any additional commentary? Are we okay with it directionally being correct? And we need to go back and add in more CNA information in the next draft.
Let's start with that. we can iterate on it.
I just suggested to replace CV number by CV
Identifier.
identifier. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's the more common.
Excellent, Yotam. That's spot on. That stuck in my head when I read it. Thank you. And I think we also need to link more aggressively over to Miner's training material. But I think that'll be a future add to the document, because they do have like how to get a CV. I think they have a video or something that somebody could look at.
Happy to use the CVE identifier approach here, but we use CV number everywhere and a mix of both in the upper paragraph up here. CV number is a unique identifier for vulnerability and so on and so forth. So maybe worth a reread if we want to settle on the standard for that kind of wording.
What does the group think? I'm going to go to the CVE page.
Yeah, they use CVE identifier. I just added a link to their glossary where we added CVE identifier, so we should match what they say.
Great
Isn't it
catch,
ironic that we
Francis.
call that a CVE numbering authority? Shouldn't it be a CIA, a CVE identifying authority or something?
Well, then they changed CVE is no longer vulnerability enumeration. CVE means CVE. They changed some of the rules out from under us. So yes, let us. Do we want to go back and scrub the document, changing number to identifier?
I don't know,
We'll
maybe
need to,
another suggestion, maybe just getting a CV ID, and then the CV ID is a unique identifier for vulnerability. If vulnerability exists, blah, 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 and then keep the CV identifier. Again, this is only for these two paragraphs. I'm not sure what if there are references in the rest of the document, and probably needs to change those as well.
What does the team think?
Yotam, if you have half an hour, feel free to go ahead and scrub the document to like make it work. Well, I think the
Cool.
general gist here is that we all agree this is fine.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The when all else fails. Kayla was going to reword that. Oh, she's not here. I will follow up with her to see if she was able to phrase that in a more positive light. We don't want failures, opportunities. So let us ignore the section that's struck out. I will follow up with Kayla and report back to everybody on that. Our next item is Kayla has, she did. There you go. Troubleshooting common challenges. So she did take that and try to rephrase down here. So let's review troubleshooting common challenges in CVD to see if that better reflects the positive language we're looking to bring to this topic. Yeah, before we do there, somebody's highlighted over here the ensuring everyone understands piece. Okay. Well,
Yeah, that was me. It was that, I don't know if that was intentional. It looked like it was kind of unfinished.
I propose we delete it.
Love it.
it never existed. All right. So the troubleshooting section. It is within the realm of possibility that maintainers don't consider the report a security issue. So how do we feel about the guidance there? How do we feel about the project maintainer knacking the report and the suggested advice that follows?
I appreciate the tone it takes of not pointing fingers at, oh, you silly maintainer, you just don't understand. I think they did a really good job of phrasing it as look at what you have power over, what you can do, how you can control it, and share additional information.
Any other thoughts? I agree. I think that's much better than when all else fails. All right. How about the newly added section on 0-day vulnerabilities? Can you take a moment to read through that? Oh, well, I see a boggle right here. We need to find a definition on 0-day.
Wasn't that definition of
Whoever-
0-day included in the table above? I know it's listed in the table above.
Might be a good place to put 1-day definitions as well, just while at it.
Mhm.
There's no definition in the table. Okay, that's fine.
So are we okay with the addition that Caleb put in there for around 0 days? Is that a good build for us?
Looks like Madison has provided a potential definition we can use.
Yeah, it's from
May
Trend
have-
Micro. I figured if we were going to define 0-day, getting the 0-day initiatives definition might be a good place to start.
Excellent.
Yeah, as long as we give them credit, should be great.
So it feels like the group is good with the intention around 0 days. Any more suggestions on the specific wording? All right, any objections to me accepting this?
Go ahead. We still need to remove that paragraph.
Which paragraph?
This year.
Yes. Yes.
So are we going to swing around and in the next version add a definition of 0-day there? Is that Madison's?
I see, got lost. I will
Yeah.
go back to the track changes and grab that.
I still have the link open. Do you want
Oh,
me to?
okay. If you could grab, just highlight like the word 0-day and put your definition there, I will get like a.
Are we okay quoting external sources with the right citation?
Yeah, I just need to see how the foundation does that. If we would do like a footnote, or if we'd have like a works cited page, or do.
Yeah, because there's a
paragraph
bibliography at the
citation.
bottom at
Yeah.
page 12.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
there's
so
a bit,
I mean, we
but
cite a lot of stuff, which I think we should.
totally. And you know, again, with the markdown hammer, we can just link directly to the citation.
Yeah. I like that. All right. For acknowledgements, do we have any additional suggestions or changes to the list of good people we've want to officially cite? Some fella in a cunning haircut noticed one thing was missed. We didn't cite the OpenSSF Vulnerability Disclosures Working Group as a source and the prior document. But if you don't like that, that's okay.
Well, I mean,
And
the
if you look-
document itself is called OpenSSF.
It's true. If you look at the bibliography, we cite MITRE a lot. So maybe giving them a little extra props.
I think that would be excellent idea. Something I want
And also the OSSF document is in the bibliography, right?
how does that, and we can adjust as needed. Are we okay with something along those lines?
Is it just me, or is that sentence not complete? I've had a couple of instances so far of my Google Docs lagging.
We also would like to highlight the many resources we leveraged from MITRE on the creation of this paper.
Ah, thank you. That was not showing.
Neither was it for me.
Yeah,
So
same.
it's really Chrome is the problem here.
There's a problem, huh? Okay. What is the problem, sir?
You were slow.
Yep.
And it wasn't showing for us. And so you were typing things and it
The
just hadn't.
cloud is slow. My internet is
I-
strong.
You must live far from civilization.
I don't have fiber or anything, but I have a pretty decent connection. All right, so are we okay with that wording? All right. For the glossary, I would suggest we put a link. We change this to a link to our terminology. And we ran out of time in the TAC call. I didn't get to bring it up, but I will try to get it added as a formal item to get additional assistance in working on the glossary. The education SIG agreed that they would own that document and help facilitate it, but I need to talk to the TAC to get just to get more contributions. So we would state something like for definitions of terms used here, please refer to the OpenSSF glossary. I mean, we need to decide on a name. There's a whole bunch of stuff that needs done there, but basically just, are we okay with a reference to that repo?
I mean, naive question about this, like, when do you meet next with the TAC and how soon can we expect it to turn around and actually generate that stuff? Because if we're talking months, we should just have a standalone glossary until that's ramped up.
I'm asking the TAC, are you okay with the education group owning this? And would you like to help advertise and get more contributions? The repo exists today. so people can start typing definitions meow. Again, I don't have time this week to do that, but that is something
okay.
I can start pecking away at, and everyone is, it's an open repo that anyone can add stuff if they desire. All right. Let's go down to page 13 then. Templates and examples. Do we have any additional templates or examples we want to add? We should have asked Jonathan about his policy, so we could have a link to something like that. Do we have any other examples we would like to add?
If
And
we could get Jonathan also to give a vulnerability report submission example, because that's kind of his shtick, right? So he should probably have one of those handy. That would be really great, I think.
I think
And-
we've had pending PRs for this for like a few weeks now.
well, we haven't had a chance to do like I want to get this group into more of a rigor of periodically reviewing our backlog and scrubbing issues and PRs. So I don't know that anyone's had the time to see it. Another proposal I have is a future piece of work. We potentially might want to make a CVD template repository that spans all the guides. So we might be able to invest a little more focus on that as a future work item of this group.
So Vicky, yeah, we've had just like we have 2 PRs waiting for Rogue to review.
Okay. Gasp. Or, well, for anyone to review, I suppose.
Anyone opened 2 weeks ago for these exact 2 things. Bug report
that would
and
be great.
vulnerability as well.
So it looks like we'll actually have the information we need for those. That would be awesome.
So any additional thoughts as we get to the top of the hour here? Are we
Yes.
okay with this as a 1.0 or a .01 draft to push into GitHub?
A, yes on that, and B, I have a comment about the bibliography.
Mhm.
Which right now it's linked to a Zotero group to which only I have write access. Right, exactly. That doesn't scale. So if anyone else would like write access to that, I believe you can just go and request and you get added to the group. I will just have to go manually do the needful, but that's pretty quick and easy to do. And we don't even need to link to it and include it. It just was really helpful for creating the citations.
All right, if folks are interested in taking on the burden of being a bibliographer master or mistress, please click the link. That's what I'm doing right now. And again, any other thoughts around, is the group okay with this as an initial draft to upload into Git so that we can start the review, the public review and the advertising process? All right, this is awesome. Thank you, everybody. I'll work with my friend Randall, who has a tool to help me get this uploaded. It's an MD file. And
So we're in agreement, we're not gonna run this through Grammarly?
what does the team feel? We don't have time today, but we could set up a very special call to do that.
I mean, I think for a v1.0 or sorry, 0.1, no, I'd say once it's in, actually in GitHub, then we can make all the changes we want. But I would hate to have it delay the process of getting it moved to Markdown.
Well, let me just say that in the past when we've done it, it really only takes like 5 or 10 minutes, just saying. But the guys we've done in the past, or I've done that in the past with, were way smaller, but that's also considered.
So does anyone have time or interest in participating in a call later this week, which is rapidly running out, to sit down for half hour, 45 minutes to go through a grammar check? I would be glad to do that. I have some limited availability.
I can do that
Tomorrow, Friday.
I can participate tomorrow.
Yeah, I think so. Also the same.
Okay, so maybe tomorrow afternoon. How does 1 p.m. Eastern?
That works for me.
All right, those interested in doing the grammar check, we will meet at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll probably set up like a Microsoft Teams call for that because I don't have a Zoom myself. So I will send the invite to the mailing list. Anyone who's interested may attend. We'll just quickly run through that prior to uploading into the GitHubs. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your time and efforts on this. This is a pretty monumentous day. We'll get this out the door, and we will start thinking about next projects for us to tackle, like maybe a CVD guide for consumers.
That sounds fun.
Advice on how consumers, not necessarily how they report things, but help understand how open source works in vulnerability handling. All right, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your days. I will talk to everyone soon.